Hello, can you hear me? How about this? Can you hear me now? Um, can now? Okay. Can you hear me now? Check. Double checking everything. Hello. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Something was wrong. Something was wrong with the audio earlier. I said good morning to everybody. Thank you for making sure. It was my earphone jack wasn't plugged in properly, so simple mistake. So good morning, everybody. Sean, Genobi. Oh, we got a lot of people on. Pretty early. Charm, Marie, Ria, Hanulet, Irvine, Eleanor, Irwin, Janice, Mondi. Okay, so good morning, everybody. And in today's session, I'm going to be talking about. Oh, let me just hide this message here. I'm going to be talking about how you can get started freelancing even with zero experience. And this is the reason I'm using this topic is because this got voted in as the popular choice in the poll I asked in Work at Home Pinoys. So if you're not part of Work at Home Pinoys, the Facebook group, I suggest you join up. We have a lot of information and resources there. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jason Dulay. I've been freelancing for 6 years now, and I run a website called wfhr.io. So that has like a lot of good information for you if you want to start freelancing, if you want to start working from home. And we have a lot of students of our courses who have graduated and are very successful right now. But I did get this question, and good morning, Karen. Good morning, Juliet. I did get this question. How do you get started in freelancing even with zero experience? And I'm planning for this just to be a short session, maybe 15. I want to talk just for 15 minutes tops, and then I'll have Q&A after. So perhaps a total of 30 minutes, depending on how long the Q&A goes. Okay, let me just hide this here. And if you're new, please visit freevacourse.com. Okay, so I'm just going to keep that notice down there because I know a lot of newbies join us and they see the Facebook Lives and they ask how and questions like that. So if you're going to ask those questions, please visit the freevacourse.com so that you'll get the answers to those questions there. Okay, once again, how to get started in freelancing with zero experience. So, and this is more directed at Upwork. We do have different online freelancing platforms like Upwork. We have onlinejobs.ph. We have freelancer.com. We have Hubstaff Talent, and a whole bunch of different freelance platforms. And the problem that a lot of newbies in freelancing have been facing, newbies meaning, it's probably the first time they're applying for work, they haven't been hired yet, is that a lot of the jobs posted prefer those with experience, right? And if you have no experience, then you can't apply for the job. You think you're not qualified for the job. And if you're an employer, right? If you're an employer, just think about it. If you're hiring somebody to do your Facebook campaigns, wouldn't you choose somebody with more experience rather than somebody with less experience? If two people were applying for the job, like if you had a business, wouldn't you choose somebody with more experience over somebody who has no experience at all? So what I'm getting at here is that if you really want to get hired, if you really want to get the jobs that you're applying for on Upwork, then you have to think like an employer. You have to think, okay, if I was the employer, if I was the business owner, what would it take for me to hire a person with zero experience? Okay, so that's the question you should have in mind. The problem with a lot of freelancers is they don't think that way. A lot of freelancers just apply to 50 different jobs, 20 different jobs, making the same mistake over and over again. You apply to a job and then you don't have experience, you make a mistake, And then because you didn't change your mindset, you're still going to make the same mistake if you apply to 20, to 50, to 100, to 1,000 jobs. You're never going to get hired. Or maybe if you're lucky, you can get hired, but chances are low because you're still making the same mistakes over and over again. So you have to think, what if I was an employer? If I was an employer looking for, let's say, a transcriptionist or a VA or a social media person or an SEO, what would it take for me to hire this person? So that's the question you have to ask yourself, and that's the answer to that question should be guiding you in what you should be doing, right? Let me take a step back here. So we know that competition is very tough, right? There are there are millions of freelancers, and when you apply to a job, sometimes there are 20, there are 50 other freelancers applying to the same job. Well, first and foremost, my number one advice here is that try not to apply to jobs that have 50 other freelancers applying to them, because your chance of getting hired is much lower. If you see a job that only has 5 people applying or less, then you can apply to those, not to the ones with like 50 plus other freelancers. Especially if you're new, just don't do it. Your chances of getting hired are going to be very low. Now, when you do apply to jobs, and what I tell my students in the courses that I teach in the VA bootcamp is that you should apply to one job a day. That's my advice. Maybe you can apply to 2 if you want, but 1 job a day, and you apply to it properly. You take your time writing your cover letter to that job. And the thing that you have to do is you have to stand out. Just imagine, okay? Just imagine the scenario. Once again, step into the client's shoes, step into the employer's shoes or the client's shoes. Think, there are 20 people applying to this job, and what will make you choose this specific person? And if you're thinking, how can I capture a client's attention? That's one thing. How can you stand out from everybody else? Like, even if you have no hours work, even if you have no job success score, how can you stand out compared to all the other people that are applying? How can you beat the competition, essentially? Well, there are a couple of ways to do this. And the first way that you can do this is with your profile. You have to have a strong profile, a well-written profile. If you're the thing I see with a lot of newbie freelancers is that they say, "Oh, I'm not getting hired." And even some of the students in the VA bootcamp, they say, "I'm not getting hired. What am I doing wrong? I'm applying to a couple of jobs a day." And when I look at their profile, the picture is horrible. Like the lighting here, I know this is very bad lighting I have right now. The picture has bad lighting. Some have like bedroom pictures or something. There's wrong grammar in the profile. And it's not very clear. So do your best. Okay, if you're trying to succeed, if you're trying to ask somebody, if you're trying to earn 50,000 pesos a month and you don't have a professional picture, your profile has grammar mistakes, multiple grammar mistakes, you're not using proper punctuation, then put in some effort. Come on. A lot of people are complaining, but they don't put in the effort. So you should put in the effort in your profile. And when it comes to your profile, if you're a newbie, you should use sales techniques and sales tactics. That's important when you're applying to jobs. Even if you're applying to jobs face-to-face. I went to one of my first jobs. Well, my first job was working in Greenwich. I had to go to an interview. I worked in Italicare Convergys. I went through an interview, I went through a final interview, but in every point, every interview, every single job you apply to, every single Upwork job you apply to, you are selling yourself. You're selling your skills, you're selling your capabilities. So you have to learn basic sales skills. When you write your profile, you should be using sales techniques and sales language. Okay? Another important thing that I've personally used is when you don't have experience and the client wants to see your work, wants to see your experience, you create your own experience. What does that mean? Okay, so um, for example, if you're a newbie web designer, okay, you just learned web design, you know how to do WordPress, HTML, things like that. Um, you're very new. You haven't created. You say I can create a website, right? You want to apply for website jobs, but you don't have any clients you've worked with. Well, create your own experience. And what I mean by that is work on dummy websites, work on demo websites so that when clients, and then you can add these to your portfolio. If you have your own website, you can add these to your website. If you have an Upwork profile, you can add this to the portfolio section of your Upwork profile. And this shows clients that even though you don't have actual experience working for clients, they can see your portfolio. And if you do a good job, they can get impressed. So create your own experience. I've also done this. Wait, let me drink something real quick here. I'm drinking this new blend of Barako coffee. It's pretty strong. I'm still trying to get used to it. Anyway, oh, by the way, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. We have a lot of other people who have said good morning. And Aloytna, I'll answer your question later. Kimberluz, Bernadette, Cherry, Vanessa, Jovelyn, Abigail, Maneth, Anne, and Pam. Good morning, everybody. I've personally created my own experience in the way that when there are other job platforms that I didn't have any experience in, like 0 hours worked, but I was still able to charge $100 per hour. Because in my portfolio section, I say, this is what I've done. This is what I've created. And if you're a newbie, if you don't have any actual working experience, you can create your own experience, take screenshots, pretend that the dummy website you worked on is a website for a client. Okay, so Sean, maybe you can give me some tips. Same, and you don't need to be a website designer to do this. You can do this if you're a virtual assistant. You can create, if you're good with Excel, if you know how to do pivot tables and charts and data analysis, you can create your own portfolio, add it to your portfolio. And in your profile, you can say, I have experience creating pivot tables, data analysis charts, and so on. Create your own experience. If you're a transcriptionist, transcribe something, transcribe a video. I see, this is very common. I see a lot of newbie people who are applying for transcriptionist jobs who don't have any experience, and they don't even have any portfolio. They don't have any samples of any work they've done. If I am an employer and you don't have experience, plus you don't have any samples of work you've done, I'm probably not going to hire you. Create your own samples. If you're a writer, create your own writing samples. You can't be a writer, apply for jobs, and then not show your client any writing samples. So create your own experience. Create your own portfolio. Okay? And when it comes to, and that's the thing I want to focus on more today, is that when you say you don't have experience, okay, create your own experience and say you can do this. Tell a client, I have experience. If you don't have any clients yet, and you're applying for website design jobs and you create 50 websites on your own just for practice, then you do have experience creating websites. Okay? And this can be applied to almost any job out there. If you don't have any writing experience, write 50 blog articles just for practice. And then you can show them to a client that you do have experience. So create your own experiences. And lastly, in your cover letters, in your proposals, you should be using sales skills as well. Sales skills are very important. Like I said, you're always selling yourself. And keep things short and simple when you're writing your cover letters. In the Philippines, we're taught, like in high school and college, we're taught to make very long essays and things like that. But when you're writing cover letters, they should be short. You're talking to it. Just think, like, if you were an employer, what would you want the cover letter to look like? Okay, so just two things. Okay, two things I'm gonna want you to keep from this Facebook Live session. Number one, put yourself in the client's shoes. Put yourself in the client's shoes. Stop just applying to multiple jobs, but think, what would it take for a client to hire? And two, if you don't have experience, create your own experience, create your own portfolio, right? That's what a lot of newbies have done, and they've been successful doing that. And lastly, also, study sales skills. Apply sales skills in your cover letter, in your profile, so that when you apply to jobs, you can stand out compared to other freelancers applying to the same job. I'm not seeing any questions. Oh, I do see a couple of questions here. Um, but and if you have questions about this topic, I'd appreciate it. Let me know. Oh, by the way, I do like this kind of stuff. I do teach in the Virtual Assistant Bootcamp, which is the course that I offer. So I have hours and hours talking about like sales skills and how to sell yourself. Like this isn't enough time to teach you how to do sales. It takes time to teach sales. Let me go over this. Okay, we have a question here. What if I'm not fluent in speaking English, but I can understand English? Well, it looks like you're pretty comfortable writing in English, right? Because you were able to write this question properly, and it's grammatically correct. But there's some punctuation problems and some but you're not writing a cover letter, you're just writing a Facebook comment. But you can write, and you don't need to have perfect spoken English to be able to succeed when you're freelancing. In fact, written English is more important for most clients, because most clients, maybe they'll talk to you once or once a month, but all the other times they'll be chatting with you. They'll be asking you questions via typing. So if you can type in English, and it seems you can type in English decently, then you should be okay. You shouldn't have a problem. Don't let your English stop you, okay? Don't make it an excuse as to why you're not applying for work. There are some free software tools out there to help you with your grammar. There's Grammarly, and a couple of others out there. So if you need help with your grammar, maybe you need to study grammar a bit more, but don't make it an excuse as to why you're not applying, okay? Tiffany, if I apply for the this is the virtual assistant complete package that she's asking about. Tiffany, if you sign up for the course, if you sign up for the VA bootcamp, you get access immediately to it. So on day one, you can watch everything in one day if you want, if you're crazy. But I don't think anybody has that kind of time. But you can watch it. Some people I know some students have been taking it over 6 months. They have full-time work, they're moms, they don't have time to really take it. So they take maybe one lesson a week or something, and they've been taking it for a very long time, and they can review it again because it's lifetime access. They can go back, they can review it, maybe a year from now, they want to review the lessons, they go back. So you have access to all the lessons. You can watch them anytime, and you can review them anytime, like in the future. So if you forget something, you can always go back. Well, you can't hear me, but other people can hear me. Do you have any labeled templates for cover letter and profile? So Sean, I do have a format, and in my VA Bootcamp Accelerated course and Successful Freelancer course, I do have templates for cover letters and profiles, but you'd have to enroll to get my own templates, and the stuff that will guide you. It's not word for word stuff that I teach, because I don't believe in teaching word for word. I believe that if you understand the principles and if you understand the format for how a cover letter and how a profile should be written, then you can apply it over and over again in different scenarios. So it's not word for word, but it is in the VA Bootcamp Accelerated and Complete courses. But we do have some cover letters on the blog. Jason Dumana shared these cover letters. I did a dissection of that on the blog. I'm waiting for a couple of my other friends to send me their cover letters. They said they would, but they're busy also, so I don't blame them. But a couple of others have said they're going to share their cover letters, and I'm going to share them on the blog as well, and then just dissect them, go over these different sections. My advice for profiles: there are lots of profiles out there that you can check out. Upwork profiles are mostly public, so you can look at successful freelancers, look at their profiles. Oh, Burns, I'm glad you're with us too. And good morning as well. Tiffany, you're welcome. Good morning, Leza. Good morning, Mild. So there are a couple of questions about the courses. This is more of a Q&A. Well, if you have questions about like Upwork and stuff, I'd be glad to answer them. But it seems that nobody's really asking too many questions about Upwork and freelancing. So I'll go ahead and answer these. Yes, Olive. Installment. So the way the installment works is that from day one that you sign up, you get lifetime access. And if you miss an installment payment, so the installment payments are every 15 days. If you miss a payment, you just temporarily lose access. And then once you make a payment again, then you gain access. After the third payment, you get lifetime access. Let me know if that was confusing. Jan, do you have a template for VA contract, or do employers and clients provide them? Now, if you're working within Upwork or something like freelancer.com or onlinejobs.ph, you don't need a VA contract because the contract is already inherent in the platform that you're using. Okay, so just if you're using those, then you don't need a contract, and you only need a contract if you're going direct to client. All right. What we mean by direct to client is if you're not using a platform such as Upwork or online jobs or freelancer, that's when you need a VA contract. I don't provide any templates for contracts. There are lots of contracts available online, but in all reality, just honestly speaking, a contract is almost useless when you're talking about online work, because if the client breaks the contract, then you can't. It's not like you can go to Dole and say, "Hey Dole, my client who paid me online broke his contract." The first thing they're going to ask you is, "Are you paying your taxes?" So the contracts are almost useless. You can't go to Donald Trump and tell him, "Hey, Mr. Trump, this company didn't pay me." So contracts are just the reminders of the written agreement. So the format, the legal writing, the legal words are not that important. What's important is that I agree to do this, the client agrees to do that, and that's it. So you can just, I've created contracts that are just like 5 sentences long, just outlining the scope of work, how much I'm going to get paid, and then just at the bottom, just signature. So it's just a reminder that, hey, this is what you agreed to. It's not legally binding in any way, because like if a client pays you upfront, which a lot of clients do with direct, and then you run away, they can't chase after you. There's no way they can chase after you. If a client doesn't pay you, there's no way you can chase after them, honestly speaking, especially with direct. With Upwork, they do have payment protection stuff. So if you're a newbie, my advice is to stay with things like Upwork because they do protect you from scams and malicious clients if you don't know how to identify them yet. Master Keith, yes, because I made the bootcamp, I'm probably the best person to answer that. Have them shoot me an email. I know a lot of you guys send me PMs on Facebook, but I can't check them all because I get too many of them. Even emails, sometimes we get over 100 emails a day. It's crazy how many emails we get. So usually within 24 hours I respond. But yeah, email is really the best way to get in touch with me because I get too many PMs and it's hard to keep track. Okay. regarding regarding computers, i5 Lappy. No, hopefully that's not a floppy disk. i5 Lappy with a 3 Mbps connection. Will it be enough for the position? Um, it depends. Okay, so i5 is okay, but what's your RAM? So RAM is important. If you're running on 1 GB RAM, no way that will work. 2 GB, it's okay. It's going to be slow. 4 GB, I'd say, is the RAM that you're comfortable that you can work comfortably with. I work with minimum of 8. I'm I'm planning to upgrade to 16 GB RAM, but I do a lot of stuff, so I'd say 4 is comfortable. 2 is like minimum. 3 Mbps connection. i5 is okay. You shouldn't worry about the i5 part. 3 Mbps connection. So um, the 3 MB, if your connection is stable, the problem with Philippine internet connections is that we have like 10 Mbps, but most of the time it becomes like 3 Mbps, and then 3 Mbps becomes 1 Mbps. So if 1 Mbps is stable, then that can be good. But if it's not stable, you might want to get a higher Mbps, like, so that when it does go slower, you can maintain 3. I think like 10 usually is okay, because if it slows down, it usually slows down to 3 Mbps. Like my connection here, I have 100 Mbps, and the slowest it goes is something like 50 Mbps or 40 Mbps. Um, it can go that slow, and I don't need 100 Mbps. I just have it because I know the internet's. I don't trust the I don't trust Globe to keep their speed consistent. Um, so what I talked about with sales is that you have to remember you're always selling yourself. You're always selling yourself to clients. To when you're applying to jobs, you're always selling your capabilities and what you can do. Um, and there are so many different sales principles that you can apply when you are sales and marketing principles that you can apply when you're writing your cover letters. One book I can recommend probably is Influence by Joseph Cialdini. It's not a very long book, but it can help out. It might be a little bit might be a little bit advanced. Um, and there are like copywriting books. If you learn copywriting, because that's what you're doing, you're selling yourself via writing. So that's considered copywriting. So if you read copywriting books like from Joe Sugarman, um, and the like, the Boron letters are very interesting. There's a story, and then they teach you some copywriting stuff, and you can learn sales principles from those. But you're always selling yourself, even if you apply to jobs, in SM or something. You're selling yourself because you're telling SM that you should choose me over these other candidates. You're always selling yourself. When you talk to people, you're always selling yourself. So yeah, learn sales principles and apply them in your everyday life, really. Um, what's the best thing you can do with your profile? We also teach this in the VA Bootcamp. We do have some specific step-by-step instructions on how to get your profile approved, and we've had a very good success rate. I'd say everyone who's applied it properly has had 100% success rate, as far as I know. What can I tell you about getting your profile approved? You have to have a strong profile. It shouldn't be similar to a lot of freelancers out there. So, like if you're applying to VA admin work, Microsoft Office work, most likely your profile won't get approved because there's so many freelancers doing that already. Sorry. Um, so learn other skills, and that's the kind of profile you should have. I guess that's my best advice for you. Learn writing. I don't know how many writers are out there, but if you learn writing and have your profile around writing, then you have a better chance of getting your profile approved. Um, and the more like unique your skills are, the more chances you have of getting your profile approved. And no, I don't offer one-on-one tutorials for VA. I just the VA bootcamp. I do have like the master class, which is group tutorials. but still then, and that's like a 30,000 peso class compared to the VA bootcamp, which is 5,000, 8,000, 13,000. So if I did one-on-one, it's not worth it for me to do one-on-one sessions. I'd rather spend my time looking for freelance jobs because I get paid higher. You're welcome. You're welcome. Bonnet, what would be the relevant samples that I can show in my profile if I'm trying to get a VA job? I uploaded some Excel, via JPEG as sample. I know it's not enough. I don't have any idea. So look at the jobs you're applying to, and then go the stuff that they're asking for. Because some jobs, they ask you to do social media. Some jobs they ask you to do Excel. Some jobs they ask you to manage email. There are a wide variety of jobs. So look at the jobs you're applying to, and that's the kind of portfolio that's the kind of samples that you should create. Like if all you're applying to are social media jobs, create like 20 different social media, not 20, maybe 10 different social media portfolio items, and that would look nice. So relevant to the jobs you're applying to. Look at the jobs you're applying to first, and then create the samples. Christian, what are the most important VA skills a newbie should learn to land their first VA job? Everything I teach in the virtual assistant bootcamp, like I teach you, and I really believe this, using Microsoft Office or Google Docs is Office application, that's important. Emails, email management, knowing how to schedule things in Google Calendar, knowing basics of social media, knowing the basics of WordPress, knowing the basics of doing research on the internet. Those are and also like things like knowing basics of data entry and transcription, as well as the sales skills that are required to sell yourself. So you should have the skills, number one, and be able to sell yourself, number two. So, and all of those are things I teach in the VA bootcamp, coincidentally, which is the course I sell. But if you can learn those skills on your own, or if you already know those skills, or just need to add some of them, you can certainly study them. You can learn them on your own and apply for jobs. And another way to answer your question is look at the jobs that are available, look at what skills they require, and learn those, which are mostly the ones I teach anyway in the bootcamp. Can I apply on intermediate level category postings? Even if I indicated entry level in my profile, I am a newbie, but sometimes I find skills requirement on an intermediate level that I can do, or I'm challenged to try. So I guess my question for you is, how can you do them if you're entry level? If your skills are entry level, how can you do intermediate level tasks? Maybe you're not entry level. Maybe you're actually intermediate level. So like I said earlier, create your own experience. Maybe have you created your own experience? Maybe because a lot of the entry level people, they haven't even created their own experience. They haven't created websites before, even they're applying for website jobs. So maybe you belong in intermediate level. So that's the question I'd ask you. Before you apply for intermediate level jobs, maybe you should change your profile to intermediate level, because you can do intermediate level tasks. You have experience, maybe not with clients, maybe you've done them in your previous work in corporate life, but I'd still consider that as some experience. Jan, the question here, 3 Mbps, but experiencing, and you're welcome. You're welcome those who said thanks when I answered your questions. Andore and Neil. Okay, 3 Mbps, but experiencing intermittent signal right now. May I please know if there's a replay? Yes, there will be a replay. I don't know if you can hear me right now, but there will be a replay on the WFHR page. So where you're watching this right now, you'll see a replay again. And I'll post it on the blog. I'll post it in the Work at Home Noise as well. Okay, it looks like we're done with our questions. I just wanted this to be a short session. I know I've done 1 hour Facebook Lives before, but those get very tiring. I want to keep them like the 30 minutes moving forward. And this is like the Q&A, because I'm busy usually during the week. I can't really answer questions that come up all the time in Work at Home Pinoy, especially if you PM me. So if you can wait until Saturday, I will answer questions live on Saturdays. Moving forward, there's a small topic, like 15 minutes of a topic, and then Q&A afterwards. Um, so I'll try to do this every Saturday, so you can follow up with me and see if I'm coming on. But unless there's something special, I should be on here every single Saturday moving forward. Thank you everybody for attending. And it's a long weekend, Labor Day weekend. Some of you might be traveling, some of you might be going home. So have fun, be safe, don't drink and drive, and have a good Labor Day. But for people like me who don't have Labor Days, get back to work. Hey.